Well, hello, leaders. So good to have you today on the Leadership Lounge. I hope you have had an incredible Thanksgiving, and I hope you didn't eat too much of the wrong thing. I ate a lot. I try to keep it pretty clean, but there's a lot of stuff sitting around you don't want to miss out on. One of the things. But good morning, good morning, good morning to you, or whatever time you are watching this playback, or whatever time it is for you live. Again, it's great to have you a part of this program, of this group, of this community. I'm excited for what the future holds for this. I have a lot of vision moving into 2022 that I know will be incredibly encouraging for you. But excuse my phone over here. I did not silence it. But anyways, hope you have your coffee and you are ready to go today. I am ready to go. So let's do this. I want to talk today. We have been in a series of gratitude, but on the other side of Thanksgiving, of course, we ought to still be grateful today. And I hope that you applied all of your weekly challenges. It will work for you only if you work it. But today I want to talk about service. I just went live on Instagram talking about service. I want to give you some points today talking about service. I'm going to use that word a lot today, service, serving people. That's what leadership is. Impact is about, how much influence you have to a group, to a demographic, or to an individual, to an organization. But influence is about how much value you bring by the way of service. Okay, we ought not, as leaders, to solely leverage our position. Matter of fact, we shouldn't leverage our position to get anything done. That's just coercion. Positional leadership is the lowest and weakest form of leadership. In other words, if we must leverage our position, our title, our seat, to move people to action, we have no true influence. We have no influence via service. We have influence maybe by title and because we signed the checks or however that translates to you, but we do not have real influence. And real influence is something we ought to go for. Actually bringing value to people's lives, making sure that they feel cared for, they feel seen, they feel like they are a valuable asset to the mission at hand, which they are. So we ought to make people feel that way. So service, leadership is service. Okay, you might have heard it before, but servant leadership is the phrase or the saying that we ought to pursue to actually attain. Okay, so I want to talk today. Here's the title. The title is How to Serve Your Team Well. How to serve your team well. Okay, I'm going to give you 7 points today. And some of the stuff is stuff that I have went over before in different ways, different teachings, maybe in different, terminology in prior teachings. But these are really 7 points of just major convictions that I have when it comes to how to serve your team well. Okay, so number one, it's character. Number one is character. Let me say this very clearly, very bottom line. Character still matters. Okay, who you are on the inside will always be more important than who you are on the outside. Who you are as a person will always carry more weight and influence than who you are in your position. All right. So number one, character. If I could say it this way, it's example. Leadership is being the ultimate example. Now, leadership is not perfection because perfection is not real and perfection is not relatable. But leadership in every way is about being an example, or you ought to be an example as a leader. You ought to be an incredible picture of what a servant-minded leader is. Okay, because oftentimes, all that people need to see is an example. We've talked about this before, but all that people need to see oftentimes is an example of what it looks like. Some people don't know what it looks like until they see it, or maybe they read about it, but they need to see it. Okay, they need to see what it looks like. All right, so number one, character. Being strong within, being an example. Okay, that's number one, character. Number two, charisma. This is another way to serve your team well. Bring energy to the room. Bring your grace to the room. There's something contagious about an energetic leader. Let us never become a stoic leader that is perceived as bored or lacking passion. Okay, sometimes you gotta, I say this sometimes. If you're happy, inform your face. If you're happy, let your face know. If you're happy and you know it, tell your face. But leadership is about, oftentimes, service is about bringing your charisma, your energy to the room. Bring your energy, bring your passion to the room. Okay, whether it's a Zoom room like this, a room, a physical space. I'm not saying you have to be loud and crazy and all that stuff and use your hands like I do, and but you can have relaxed intensity, a passion. Your passion can still be communicated by in different ways and different styles. So whatever your version of passion or energy, charisma looks like, bring that to the room. And look, sometimes we got to step over the way that we feel to lead the moment well. Maybe you don't get anything else from this call, but please get this. Sometimes maybe it's early in the morning. Maybe you've had a long weekend. Maybe there's a lot going on. You're stressed about the day. And stresses and fatigue and weariness and distraction can disconnect you from being present. And what people desire, what people need, is a present leader, someone who is completely present. What would happen in our leadership, through our leadership, if we brought all of who we were to every single moment? If we lived in such a way that said, all that matters is right here and right now, how impactful could we be? Okay, how many people could we serve? That's number two, charisma. Number three, communication. Oh, please go back and watch one of the prior meetings that we had about communication. Effective team communication. Communication goes a long way. Teams rise and fall on communication. You might have heard that organizations or everything rises and falls on leadership, but let's zoom in a little further. Teams rise and fall on communication. So please communicate. What you think is over communication might be just enough communication. Okay, that's number three. I won't belabor that point. Number four, commitment. Commitment, loyalty, devotion, all that matters. All that matters to your team. It all matters. They need to know that you are committed to them, that when trial hits, when hard times hit, when maybe personal success hits your life, we can't forget about our team. We can't forget about the people who are with us and had our backs, but let's talk about with the angle of trial. People need to know that you're not going to flee the scene, that you're going to remain in their corner no matter what. Commitment. You're committed not just to them in trial or in victory, but you're committed to their personal growth. You're committed to their success. You will never stop being successful as long as you are committed to other people's success. I love seeing other people win. That's under my leadership. Okay. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking about succession, and I was telling this person to work themselves out of a job. Work themselves out of a job. They said, well, I don't want to work myself out of a job. I don't want to lose my job. I said, no. I said, you'll always be promoted in an organization, a healthy organization. If you're training people in such a way to where they can do your job, you'll just keep rising up the ranks, up the hierarchy, whatever that looks like in your organization. Matter of fact, I said, if you work yourself out of a job, that is job security. I will never release somebody who I know can train and develop um, other people, who is committed to other people's development. I will always promote them, and I'll always want to keep them around because that shows me that they are committed. The big question today in this point is, are you committed to your team's personal development, or are we only committed to our own success? Okay. We need to be committed to our team. We need to be in their corners and have their backs no matter what. Okay. Number 5, care. This can go a lot with the prior point, but care. You might have heard this saying before, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Do you care for them? And let's even go on a personal level. Do you ask, how their personal lives are doing, how their family's doing, how their daughter's softball game went, etc. Do you care? So show that you care. Simply ask them how they're doing personally. Have their back. They need to know that. They need to feel that. That's number 5. Number 6, consistency. There's nothing like a consistent leader. I love consistency. Being exciting and spontaneous enough to where people never get comfortable and never sit back on their heels, but kind of always on their toes, like what's next. I'm excited. I'm anticipating the next decision that they're going to make, but consistent enough to feel safe. Okay, so consistency matters. We must be consistent emotionally in our decisions, consistent and accordance to vision, not always changing direction. Okay, so consistency. But I think the biggest one that I can really zoom in on is consistency, just in the way that you act emotionally. That's a really big one that I've seen a lot of leaders sway to the max. You never know what you're going to get when they walk into the room. And that's something that people stop feeling safe with. I've been there. Okay. And I've also been there as far as I've been the one I did not allow people to feel safe under my leadership, because I'd always walk into the room carrying a different type of emotion. And some of the feedback I started to get was that they didn't feel safe, and that they would be anxious. And I never want people to be anxious when they walk into a meeting with me. I want them to feel safe, like everything's going to be okay. And that is led via your consistency. Okay. That's number 6. Number 7, I love this one. Coaching. Okay. Coaching. There's a reason why those people chose to be under your leadership, because they admired, they revered, respected, honored your knowledge, your wisdom. So continue to give that to them. Don't withhold it because now they're in your organization. Continue to coach them along the way. Challenge, correct out of love, encourage, etc. Coach them along the way. Those are 7 ways to serve your team well. Your example, your level of energy, your communication, your commitment, your level of care, your consistency, and how much value you bring to them by the way of your wisdom and your input, which is coaching. Okay? 7 ways. There you go. I encourage you to work them this week. Remember, they will only work if you work them. All right. Love you, Lounge family. Thank you for doing what you do. And I have a feeling you already do these 7 things so well. But let's continue to provoke that awareness, increase that awareness this week. Let's go into this week and absolutely serve people like we never have before. Love you dearly. Talk to you soon.